Good evening and welcome to Nashville. I'm Alan Jackson. As America approaches her 250th birthday, we're facing an important question. What kind of nation are we leaving to our children and grandchildren? For generations, Americans were taught that this country was an extraordinary experiment in freedom. Not because we were perfect, but because our founders believed that our rights came from God, not from government. They understood that freedom carried responsibilities, that character mattered, and that faith played an important role in public life. Well, today, that understanding is being challenged. Instead of learning what made America strong, many are being taught why America should be criticized. Instead of being encouraged to see opportunity, they are often encouraged to see obstacles. Well, as a result, ideas that have failed around the world, like socialism and government dependence, well, they're finding new support in major cities across our nation. At the same time, we seem to be overlooking the very people who keep this nation strong. The father who gets up early and goes to work, the mother who sacrifices for her family, the police officer who runs towards danger, the soldiers willing to defend people they may never meet. They are ordinary Americans doing extraordinary things, and they remain the backbone of this nation. But are we passing those values on to the next generation? Have we forgotten the role that faith played in shaping our country? And what happens if we fail to preserve the principles that have sustained America for 250 years? Well, in a moment, we'll talk with Dr. Ben Carson. He's one of the most respected voices in America today. And as America celebrates this historic milestone, we'll ask him what must be done to ensure America's best days are still ahead. I'll be right back.
This year, we celebrate 250 years of God's faithfulness to our nation. From backyard picnics and ball games to laughter shared with family and friends, we've been given so many blessings to enjoy together. And in a world that feels increasingly divided, these moments remind us of what matters most: faith, freedom, family, and community. Alan Jackson Ministries wants to help you carry that message with you wherever you may go. This outdoor blanket and canvas tote bag are simple reminders of God's goodness and a way to spark meaningful conversations about faith and the hope we have in Him. Request your limited edition tote bag and outdoor blanket today with your gift of $100 or more at alanjackson.com or call 800-880-5102.
Well, tonight we're joined by the founder and chairman of the American Cornerstone Institute, Dr. Ben Carson. Welcome to the show, Dr. Carson.
Always good to be with you, Pastor.
It is always good to get to visit with you. You are a prime example of someone who has experienced the American dream. You were born into less than ideal circumstances, your fair share of poverty, a single mom, and yet you overcame through faith in God and the opportunity of education. You became the youngest chief of pediatric neurosurgery in the U.S. at Johns Hopkins at 33. You served there for more than 30 years. You led a team of surgeons in the first known separation of conjoined twins, among many other accomplishments in the OR. You were awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Bush. You'll receive the same from President Trump. You served in the presidential cabinet as the Secretary of HUD. The list goes on and on. My question is pretty simple. Is there any other nation in the world where somebody could come from poverty to that list of achievements as you have in America?
Well, my wife and I have visited 68 countries. It'll be the 69th later this summer. And there is no place that even comes close to offering the same kind of opportunities. You can work as hard as you want, and you can realize your dreams. And some people are trying to convince segments of our society that the American dream is dead. It's not dead. We're the only country that has a dream. There's no other country that has a dream that everybody knows about. And there's a reason for that. And we really need to do everything we can to preserve it, because those who want to fundamentally change us can do so by creating dissension and hatred in our country. They're working very hard to do that now by telling certain people in our society that everybody's against you, that the government's against you, that the system is against you, and you need to blow it up.
You know, we seem to live in a season where we can't have civil discourse without a lot of shouting at one another. And yet when I think of you, you represent the notion of gentleness in a unique way. You obviously have an intense desire to learn, achieve, and accomplish, and yet you communicate with other people in a way that brings that gentle spirit to bear. Can you coach the rest of us on that just a bit?
Well, you know, the Bible tells us, love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. If you love your neighbor as yourself, you're not going to be trying to tear them down. You'll be trying to build them up. You'll be kind, you'll be gentle, you'll be rational, you'll be willing to listen. And can you imagine the difference in tone that would occur in our country if people were simply willing to sit down at the table with the facts in the middle of the table and discuss their differences rather than hurling accusations and filthy names at each other? We could do so much better. We can do so much better. It's a choice. And there are those who are stirring the pot. You can take the most radical left-wing person and the most radical right-wing person, and they'll agree on about 80% of stuff. Why do we take that 20% they disagree on and make that the thing that is most important and the thing that we spend all of our time on, when we could start with the vast amount of things that we agree on and work together to achieve solutions that we can both find acceptable? That would be the rational way to do things.
I like your idea. You have written a new book for children. It's titled Built on Faith, because you wanted children to know the real stories of the men and women whose courage and faith have built our nation. Can you tell us a little bit about that book?
Yeah, well, it's so important that our children know who we are, because there's so much propaganda now. They start very early. I think they were inspired by Lenin, who said, "Giving your children to teach for 4 years, and the seed that I sow will never be uprooted." And you've seen over the last couple of decades a marked change in what teacher unions put forth and what a lot of the leftists teach our children, that America is bad. We had slavery. We treated the Indians poorly. We're systemically racist. This, that, and the other, blaming America for them. And I'm not saying those things didn't happen, but what I am saying, and what we do teach through our Little Patriots program, is that you have to look at everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there's a heck of a lot more good than there is bad and ugly. Why not talk about that? And that's what we do. We talk about everything, but we put it in proper context so that our young people are educated. Unfortunately, a lot of people in our society are not educated. They don't know very much. And those are people who are very easy to manipulate. I'm sure you've seen some of the man on the street interviews where they ask them the simplest questions, and they have no idea what you're talking about. Well, those are people who can very easily be manipulated and come to believe that they live in an evil country and that they should be part of changing that, sometimes in violent ways. We just have to be extremely vigorous. The Bible says in Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's older, not depart from it. That means getting in there on the ground level and making sure that we teach our children what they should know. And what's really interesting, if you take Alexis de Tocqueville, who came here in 1831, ostensibly to study our penal system, but he said, let me look at the whole system. He was so impressed by our governmental structure, checks and balances, separation of powers. He was so impressed by the entrepreneurial business environment that we created that made innovation easy, about the educational system in those one-room schoolhouses that taught children everything they needed to know to succeed in our society. He could find a mountain man, and the guy could read. The guy could tell him about the Declaration of Independence. But what really impressed him more than anything were the churches and the sermons that he came coming out of those pulpits which inspired a ragtag bunch of militiamen who didn't even have shoes to defeat the most powerful military force on earth and to give the people a sense of morality. You know, it was our second president, John Adams, who said that our Constitution was designed for a moral and religious people and is woefully inadequate for the government of any others. Think about that. And think about all the things that went into creating the kind of nation we have. And Tocqueville said at the end of his 2-volume set, Democracy in America, America is great because America is good. And if America ever ceases to be good, she will cease to be great. We have the formula, one nation under God, to be good. Will we choose it or not?
That is such an important question. Every generation has to make a choice for themselves. And I think those choices are on the table before us. Speaker Mike Johnson recently said a prayer at the Rededicate America event. And I want to play a clip of that prayer and then ask you a follow-up question. It's on this topic.
Over each of our 250 years, America has been a land of hope and liberty, a place of miracles and the light and glory of all nations because of you. And now, as we approach the 250th anniversary of American independence, we face a new set of challenges in a new era. In recent years, we've seen sinister ideologies sow confusion and discord among our people.
You know, you just reminded us that educating the next generation about Americans' history has to be a priority, and it is that for your American Cornerstone Institute. But everything tells us there's a significant decline of patriotism amongst the young people. What's at the root of that decline?
I think teaching and emphasizing that we had slavery, that we put Indians on reservations, that we put Japanese in internment camps, and emphasizing that and saying that that's who we are. Those are things that happen, but it has to be in context. You know, there's no nation ever, go back as far as you want, that didn't have to deal with slavery. So that didn't make us unique that we had slavery. What made us unique is that we had so many people who opposed it, that we fought a bloody civil war and lost a large portion of our population to get rid of it. And it was the principles of our Constitution that had led us in the right direction, that has gotten us through many of the situations that we faced. We had the right kind of laws and the right kind of fidelity, and it made a very big difference in who we became. And it will make a big difference in the future if we adhere to it. Now, there are those who want to change it. And they say, you know, our Constitution is not for us today. It was okay back in those days, but maybe not so much now. I don't think so, because I think it was largely based upon our Judeo-Christian belief system. And there's no question it is not compatible with Sharia law. It is not compatible with communism. And I don't make any apologies for that. That's who we are. That was how we got from nowhere, a bunch of ragtag militiamen running around, to the pinnacle of the world in record time. It wasn't a coincidence. It was because of our belief system.
Well, Dr. Carson, we need to take a short break. I hope you'll stay with us for another segment.
Absolutely.
And for those of you watching, if you happen to have your phone close by, try logging on to ajnow.com. You can send me an email with your thoughts on this topic. I'll be right back. We're back now with Dr. Ben Carson. Dr. Carson, the Vice President, J.D. Vance, recently appeared on The View. I know you've had some experience there. The host made claims that the Trump administration had tried to erase black history from America. What would your response have been to those claims?
I would say, prove it to me. That's what my response would have been. There's no attempt to erase black history. There is an attempt to make sure that all of our history is included and that we don't segment people. You know, you probably heard today about the attempt to have special employment, government employment contracts for the LGBTQ community. You know, that just doesn't make any sense. You choose to be whatever you want to be, and you can love whoever you want. But why do you get to have special privileges and set-asides by the government? That doesn't make any sense. And our current administration wants things based on merit. Was there a time when perhaps you needed to have some set-asides for Black Americans who had been freed from slavery and really had no support system? Yes, I will say that's true. But you can't lean on that forever. And you look at how much progress has been made just in my lifetime. I remember as a 6-year-old going into the Deep South and seeing all these whites only and colors only signs. This is the same lifetime. We have Black admirals and generals and CEOs of Fortune 500 companies and heads of foundations and university presidents. We've had a president of the United States. Can you really say that nothing's changed, that we haven't made enormous progress? And we cannot continue to make progress if we segment society, if we don't put everybody on a level playing field and do things based on merit and not set-asides.
President Trump has named you as the vice chair of the Religious Liberty Commission. Can you share with us some of the biggest threats, religious liberties, that we're facing in America?
Oh boy, there are a lot of them, and we very much need the commission. We're actually going to be reporting to the president next week on some of the recommendations. But, you know, the key thing for us is to recognize that, yes, everybody is free to believe what they want to believe, but we don't want to be in a situation where we twist our society to make it fit into everybody's ideology. We have a Judeo-Christian foundation, and, you know, unlike Great Britain, you know, they've allowed large segments of their country to live under Sharia law. That changed significantly who they were. Do we want to go down that road? I think we can be fair to people without actually changing who we are. Amen. And that's going to be a big challenge, though, because, you know, it sounds right to let everybody live the way they want and to change our society to fit the way that they want to live. It sounds like it's a compassionate thing to do, but not if it fundamentally changes who we are. And it's similar to LGBTQ. People can do what they want, but when they begin to say everybody else has to also do what they want, that becomes a problem. And these are going to be very interesting areas that we're going to have to deal with as a nation if we want to continue to be the kind of nation that has spawned such freedom and innovation in the past.
Well, I want to ask one more question. Recently, the Southern Poverty Law Center has been indicted for fraud and money laundering allegations that they bankrolled the KKK and some other hate-driven organizations. Now, you've had some firsthand knowledge with that organization. They came after you. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, I must say I was gratified by the fact that they got so much pushback that they immediately took me off the list. I think they had a hard time explaining how I was a terrorist. To a lot of the liberal woke media, if you're black and you don't agree with them, then somehow you're a threat. You're a threat if you think for yourself and if you have influence that encourages other people to think for themselves. And, you know, the Southern Poverty Law Center probably started out with good intentions, but over the years have allowed themselves to be infiltrated and influenced by people who perhaps had ulterior motives. And it's very sad to see something like that. I'm hopeful that maybe from this incident, they can learn, they can go back and they can look at their original goals and maybe become a useful entity once again.
Well, Dr. Carson, thank you for your time today. We always appreciate your thoughtful insight and the work that you're doing. You're a blessing to all of us.
It's wonderful to be with you, and please give your wonderful family my regards.
I will do that. We'll be back in just a moment. Thank you for spending a few minutes of your day with us. We always look forward to your emails and your thoughts. Lisa from South Carolina wrote, "It's so clear why the left, media, and Democrats so strongly resist the public display of the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Akin to how the Sadducees and Pharisees used deception to persecute Christ and his disciples. So it's done today against conservatives, Christians, parents. If the Ten Commandments were visible in all the public spaces, then the power of those against the truth and their great mass deceptions would rightly vanish. Bless you." Well, Lisa, I join you in looking forward to seeing the Ten Commandments put back in public. I've been working with some of them in our community to see that happen in our high schools again. But we can start in our homes. Let's be sure that those people under our roofs that we share the dinner table with are familiar with the Ten Commandments, and they don't just know the principles, that we encourage one another to live by them. I think our behavior at home can ultimately influence the government. I'm not going to wait for the government to get it right to start at our kitchen table. We can be the difference makers. Sally from Illinois commented, "Brandon Tatum said it all perfectly. You both are presenting the challenges with solutions and a call to do something." Well, Sally, I agree. Brandon gets it right. When I grow up, I want to be as eloquent and as funny as Brandon is. He is a gift to all of us. Again, thank you for spending a bit of your day with us. God is moving in the earth. Let's join him in what he's accomplishing. God bless you and good night.